T-Roo. So my next one is one that Jordan talked about previously when we did Batman. So I'm going to talk about it, Superman. But Jordan took the angle of it. He had read the comic. I did not read the comic. I'm coming at this purely as its own movie and as an adaptation of the game. And I'm talking about Injustice. But you know what? Maybe let's put what Jordan said about Injustice last time here. Let's set that up in the event I want to make this into a video later. I'm not set on it. Let's put that there.
Jake, did you ever play the NetherRealm Studios game Injustice: Gods Among Us?
No, but I'm familiar with it.
You're familiar, so you know how it spawned a comic book run, and then it had not very good movie interpretation of the story.
Imagine meeting you here, Lois.
This is a priority call to all Justice League members. A woman is missing.
She's one of ours. Her name is Lois Lane.
Lois. My masterpiece.
Brace yourself! You took his wife. You took his unborn child. And his city. Why?
After all these years, Batsy, you really need reasons from me?
Disappointingly bad.
An animated film?
Yeah, they did an animated film. Yeah.
Okay.
They had an animated film.
I haven't seen it, but I watched the trailer and I was kind of like, I'm not very enthusiastic about this, so I'll get around to watching it. But
I would say don't waste your time because it's not Injustice. What? Justin, help me. What did I say yesterday? It doesn't do Injustice justice, and where's the justice in that? That's what I said. That's what I have to say about that movie.
But there may be injustice.
Definitely some injustice.
So okay. Where to even begin? The comic book run covers the 5 years leading up to the game. And I just recently reread most of I didn't quite finish year 5, but most of the 4 years. And so the issue with the Injustice movie is it really runs through stuff way too fast. Directly changes a lot of stuff, and completely screws up a number of things. That being said, there are a couple scenes where it's like, oh, that's kind of neat. That's just like the comic that I just read. And that's pretty much a one-for-one shot. That's like, it doesn't happen often. But when it does happen, it kind of is like, oh, that's kind of cool. But the comic has scenes like iconic, cool scenes like Superman getting a Yellow Lantern ring and having the Yellow Lantern suit on, and it looks badass and it looks dope. Whereas the movie is kind of just, and the other thing with the comics is kind of not just Superman's slow descent to being willing to team up with supervillains and murder and take over the world, but like the other members of the Justice League also kind of follow him down that road in the original comic. Whereas in the movie, it's really just Superman and Wonder Woman until Wonder Woman suddenly grows a conscience and is like, whoa, you just murdered a bunch of kids. This is where I draw the line. And then the movie has to like be able to quickly resolve and finish it up. Whereas the comic book kind of leads into the game, then the game happens.
My thing with that universe was always, at least going from the games, was just like Wonder Woman is so evil, just seemingly out of nowhere. She's just really evil and willing to do a murder.
Yeah, they kind of in the even in the comics, they lean more into the she's a warrior aspect of her character. So she's very easy like to be like, certain people are just bad, and the quickest way to root out evil is to So they kind of lean more on that, and you're either going to be okay with that or you're not going to be okay with that. But the issue with the movie is that, they hit a point where they're like, okay, well, this movie's coming up on like hour and a half. We got to wrap this shit
An
up.
animated one. It can only be an hour 45 at most. Wrap this bitch up.
Like we gotta wrap this shit up. And instead of doing what I think they should have done, so if I had it my way, Batman Batman: The Long Halloween is like a two-parter. The one that Justin chose, in Crisis on Infinite Earth, is a three-parter. I think this should have been like a multi-movie deal kind of thing, where each of the movies is year 1, year 2, year 3, etc., etc. And maybe you combine like year 2 and year 3 into one movie, or year 3 and year 4, but have multiple of the years, so you get to then have the actual story where you have Hal Jordan like losing his Green Lantern ring, and the Green Lantern's going to war with Superman, and Hal Jordan becoming the Yellow Lantern. Like, you get to have more of the nuance that people fell in love with the comics, and not just rushing through it, so that at the end, then instead of having, you know, the game events of having them bring over alternate Superman or alternate Batman, in the movie they just bring over alternate Lois Lane, who talks Superman down, and Superman's like, I surrender. Take me to prison.
Oh, wait, no, I did watch that movie.
And like, they kind of just completely undercut the entire point of that storyline, and of the movies that I watched. Yeah, of the movies that I watched this week, I would have to say it's at the bottom, because it just so misses the point. Like,
in my opinion, that movie came out 2-3 years too late. Like, the second game had been out for like a little while, and the notion, I think, okay, tell me if you guys disagree with this sentiment. The notion of Superman but evil's done now, right? We're done. It's done.
I think it's overplayed.
For a while. Well, I think for a while, as Superman, but like an evil version of Superman. Like I say, Brightburn is still a fantastic movie, but it's not Superman. It's Superman-esque.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like you got Homelander, like, example, you got Omni-Man, you got like.
I think it depends on how you do it. But overall, I'd say that it's kind of overdone at this point. I would agree with that statement. When Injustice came out, it was still fresh, and they were actually doing Superman, not just evil Superman.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is like, if you had managed to get this out like right around when the game came out, I think it probably would have had more. I don't think it got the effort that it would have gotten when that game was at like the height of its popularity.
Or certainly when the comic came out.
Yeah.
Like, because the comic came out a little bit after the game did, like I think a year or two after the game came out. Because the game came out and it was really popular.
Yeah,
and then they were like, well, let's show how Superman and his regime got to this point, and that was kind of the fun thing of those 5 years of comics. And there's a lot there. There's a bunch. There's too much for me to be able to properly and adequately dissect.
I know that at one point there was going to be I know they were going to do a live action movie at one point, and it just slowly got defunded till it became this animated project. And this animated project didn't relegated straight to DVD, didn't get, like, maybe if this thing went theatrically, it would have gotten more effort. That was my big thing with this. Like, no effort went into this movie. At least that's what it comes across.
And it just like, there's also, so there's a number of changes that they make in this versus in the comic, and one of the big ones is, instead of Sinestro showing up and slowly worming his way into Superman's ear and pushing him further and further down the dark path, it's Ra's al Ghul, and it just doesn't. It's not the same. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I don't think it works
there's
for
the
anybody.
Fact, there's the fact that
hey, there might be hardcore Ra's al Ghul fans out there.
In the comic, it's not only Wonder Woman who's feedbacking into Clark and making him think that what he's doing is okay, but like the rest of the Justice League, or at least a good chunk of them, are also like, yeah, this is the right thing to do. We're the heroes. We're the good guys, which feedback loops into Clark Kent's head, and like path to hell is paved with good intentions. They think they're doing the right thing, right? But in this, because it's just one person, it really just makes it come across like Wonder Woman is the bad guy.
It's kind of what it looked like, yeah.
A little bit.
Because she's like, you have to be strong in your conviction. You have to be okay with this. You have to, and it's just, yeah, it misses the mark.
Is it one of those ones? Is she one of those Wonder? I noticed this in the Crisis on Infinite Earths movie, where I mentioned this to Jordan, but ever since Gal Gadot, now every subsequent version of Wonder Woman has to have a thick Greek accent, like every single one.
This one doesn't.
Oh, this one's an American, which is funny considering, like, at one point I'm pretty sure she had the American flag on her costume. I think that was the Linda Carter. So that's it. That's Injustice. Okay, and then you can go watch that in our Batman episode now if you're watching live. But okay, so here's my thing with this movie. Okay, now this is a common criticism amongst all of the movies I'm going to be talking about pretty well from here on out. The Man of Tomorrow one kind of suffers this a little bit, but they're all based on long comic runs. And they're all based on, like, multiple issues of a comic, like 12, 13, sometimes multiple years of an issue of a comic. And you could tell that this is a much longer story that has been condensed into a very short period of time, right? And also, so that's my main criticism. You could tell that this is a much longer story that has been condensed into one. So things just kind of happen out of nowhere with seemingly no explanation. So, like, just as an example, Nightwing dies, he gets killed, which is a major part of the game, the story of the first game, but he just, out of the blue, becomes Dead Man. And Jordan, I don't know if you know, I mean, I know you've read the Injustice comic, but do you know who Dead Man is?
Not specifically. I don't remember exactly what his origins are. I just know that he's typically like a dead man.
It's that, well, you know how Nightwing goes and he sees that Hindu god and he gets brought back to life? Yeah, or he gets brought... That's Dead Man. That's Dead Man's origin story, except for it's a different guy. I don't remember what the actual guy's name is, but it's a different guy. But that's Dead Man. He's a superhero. He's friends with Batman. He usually teams up with Batman, which is probably why Nightwing became Dead Man. But...
from what I recall in the comic, the reason why Dead Man comes into existence in this world is because somehow... for some reason, I don't recall exactly why. They say in the movie it's because it's out of balance. Yeah, well, Spectre takes Superman's side. Oh, that's what it was. I remember why.
Oh, yeah, they clearly that's not in the movie at all.
Mr. I believe, from what I recall, Mr. Mixoplex becomes the spirit of Spectre. And so in order to kind of combat that... and then there's the whole Trigon angle of it all that's in the comics. There's a lot, and that's the ultimate thing with that movie is, and I've said this in my previous thing, so I'm only going to very quickly say this, is it's supposed to be, if you're including the game, 6 years that are passing to make this story, and they're cut. What is it? An hour 20?
Not even.
They're trying to they're trying to shrink 6 years worth of time into like an hour something. So it was never going to work.
That randomly happens and is not resolved. So at the end of the movie, Nightwing is still Dead Man. It's not really resolved as to what happens to him. The premise of this in movie doesn't really work for Joker. It's too Joker. I mean, to be fair, it depends on the version of Joker. But for most versions of the Joker, he's not really he wouldn't go after Superman. It's not really, he doesn't go out of his zone. That's not really what he does. And so this movie doesn't do a good enough job justifying why he would just randomly go. It's a case of like, and the same thing with Superman is Superman, Injustice Superman is unhinged. Like, that's his thing. And so this movie doesn't really do a good job of getting him to the place of being completely unhinged. No, they still need him to be Superman. So they kind of do, because he kills the Joker kids, but like it ruins the adaptation of most of these characters, where Wonder Woman now has second thoughts, even though she is a total monster in the Injustice universe. Like she turns on Superman at the end, even though that would never happen, because
remotely how that character works in that universe.
Because the movie needs him to be Superman. He fights, or Ra's al Ghul betrays him in the end. Oh yeah. There's a scene towards the middle where they show up at the at the Fortress of Solitude, and Pa Kent is just randomly standing there. They walk in, he's randomly standing there, and then Batman's like, shit, we need to get out of here. We need to get out of here right now. And you're like, what the fuck? What? I had to go back and rewatch it because I was so confused. Because out of nowhere, Pa Kent was just dead. And I was like, what? Why is he here? Like, 1 minute they were fighting random soldiers, and the next minute he's just dead. And I'm like, what the... When did that happen?
That's another example of where the adaptation really
fuck?
dropped the ball.
Because
the idea is supposed to be that basically the U.S. government is like Superman. You can't keep going across borders.
Well, yeah, I know they do that in the movie. There's a bit where
and so Superman has not just Pa Kent, but Ma and Pa Kent are in the fortress to hide them away so nobody can go after them because they already tried to go after them. Like, it's just
there's a bit earlier on where you see that the government that they were the ones who kidnapped Pa Kent, and it's just Pa Kent, not Ma Kent. Ma Kent doesn't show up in this at all. And what was it? Oh yeah, and just the idea that that was it. The movie doesn't do a good job of explaining why Batman is against this. Because there's a lot of there's more than one time where multiple characters go like, this is kind of what you do. And he doesn't have a response. Like both Nightwing and Superman are like, I'm just doing what you do, but on a much larger scale. And most versions of Batman Batman's a fascist. Like, they said it as a joke in Peacemaker, I think. But he is. In most versions of, like, most dystopian future versions of Batman, like Dark Knight Returns or Kingdom Come, he eventually and inevitably installs a police state. An unregulated police state. Yeah. Brother Eye is another one. Or in Dark Knight Returns, he's got the Batman guys. He's got his army of Batman guys. In Kingdom Come, he's got his Batman robots.
Yeah, and that's the thing is in the comics, it's always like
it's a much slower burn of like him first identifying with this and then eventually obviously not identifying with this. But
just
in the
like
movie,
in the beginning in the comic, he's like, I understand where your head was at with Joker, and I could even forgive that, but basically you're taking it too far.
Yeah.
So it very much is a thing where in the beginning he doesn't necessarily disagree with where Clark's head is at, but it is a slow burn of where he kind of is like, there has to be a line, and when you're willing to cross that line, what makes you any different from them?
Whereas in this movie, there isn't
have hell paved with good intentions scenario.
In this movie, there's no build up to it. He's just immediately like, I immediately know, and I'm like, but this is out of character. Doing this is out of character. There isn't enough. Also, there's one scene of Superman being nice, right? And then he immediately, because the movie's so short, the movie immediately needs to get to the point where he's punching a hole through Joker's chest. So it doesn't do any of the build up to him just being regular Superman. So when he does break, it means something. Like, the games can get away with that because you have a cultural understanding. It's the same issue with Batman versus Superman, where like the games work because you have a cultural understanding that Superman's not the bad guy. So when he is the bad guy, it's weird. And that's the point. But in a movie's a different medium. You have to justify and explain how he got there. And this movie doesn't take the time to do that. And now we're going to talk about the ending. Because
that's where I say this movie could have been like 3 movies. And you could have had multiple years kind of building up to that.
I'm just saying you do 2. You could have done 2. I mean, 3, sure. But like, even if you don't want to spend the money on 3, you should have done 2. Like, you should have done 2. Or if you only want to do 1, just do an adaptation of the game. Don't try to force an adaptation of the comics and then spend a fraction of the time on it. But then ultimately, like, yeah, okay, I'm watching this as a movie, and I know what the game is about. But I'm watching this just as a movie, and then just out of nowhere, another Superman shows up and starts to fight in a completely different costume and starts to fight him.
Earth 9 Superman. Welcome to Earth 1.
Actually, we're Earth 1. What are we? 22.
Oh. Okay. You don't.
For no reason. And then Lois Lane from another universe, from a completely different universe, shows up, where in that universe Superman's dead instead of her, and then the Superman from Earth 1 just fucks off and disappears. He's just gone. He's not at the end of that movie. He's just gone. And then she convinces him to give up. She's just like
which Injustice Superman would never do.
No, right? Like he's like, oh yeah, like he's like essentially confronted by the ghost of his dead wife, and he's like, yeah, you need to stop, immediately abandon your entire crusade and give up everything and go to jail now. And he's like, all right.
Husbands, wives, and children will you kill for peace, Clark?
How did it come to this? What have I done? I deserve death.
No. Mr. Terrific and I will build a Red Sun prison.
That won't be necessary. I'll stay wherever you put me.
I guess I'll do that. And like, yeah, you said off air that, oh, now they can't do Injustice 2. I mean, it ends with him still going to prison. So I suppose theoretically you could do a variation where, like, they have to release him to stop Brainiac. And after same deal as in Injustice 2, he gets out. Hold on, let me finish. He gets out, and he's like, ooh, actually, no, I still like fascism. You could still technically do that.
But one of the big problems with that movie, and thus that would happen if they did do a sequel, is he doesn't have a regime. In the comics and in the game, no, he does not. He does not have like the entire Justice League siding with him and joining with him and also going back. Then in the sequel, it would just be he's a bad guy, singularly. So you have the entire. You would. Point being is that it's a lot easier to capture a singular hero gone rogue than it is, like, that's the entire point of why. That's the entire. Let me finish. That's the entire reason why Batman in the game had to bring over the alternate universe heroes, is because in order to get the kryptonite weapon, he needed the Justice League, which the Justice League in his world had gone bad and couldn't help him get the weapons. Like, it just
by the time of that first game, most of the regime is like, the idea of it being a regime isn't really explored all that much. It isn't. You just start falling apart, and
it absolutely is in the game.
In the second one, you could still do the second one because, again, in the second one, they're all good. The only character.
Oh, they are not all good.
Most of them have gone back to being good. The only one who's now not good is Wonder Woman, and yeah, I fully acknowledge she got. You
got Wonder Woman. You got Black Adams.
Black Adam's not in the second game.
Yes, he is.
He's also again
Shazam. Black Adams? Yes, he is.
So Black Adam is, but he wasn't part of the regime, was he?
Yes, he was.
In the first game, he's not, because he's not in the first game.
He's not in the first game, but he is. Well, he is, but he's not. That's where I say the second game is weird because it continues off the continuity of the comics, and in the comics he very much is.
Interesting. But again, regardless, most of the regime in that second game are good guys again. So yeah, you could still do a variation of he's in prison, and Brainiac shows up and they have to let him out, and then
I hope they don't.
I mean, just no, they're not gonna. They're not gonna, because this movie did terribly.
You so horribly dropped the ball in the first one. Just don't.
Well, again, it's like, yeah, the ending of this movie introduces the concept of multiverse completely out of nowhere. Like, if you've never played the game, you're just like, wait, he could just go to another universe? Why didn't he do that the whole time? Like, he could just...
that's what? Again, that's an example of
there's a reason why the second game cut that shit out.
Well, no, but in the game, it's not easy. It's hard for them to get other people, like the people from the other universe. It's supposed to be difficult, not something they can just do like that. Like, he had to have they had to develop the technology, and it was a difficult thing for them to bring other people over. No, it's a bad adaptation. It's a bad movie, but it's a bad adaptation.
It's a bad movie because things like even removing the adaptation part of it, it's just a bad movie. It's
another example of one of those movies where
it needs to be.
It expects you to know. It expects you to have already read the comic, because it has a lot of references to things that happen in the comic that mean nothing to you if you haven't read it. Like Nightwing becoming Deadman. is a thing that happens in the comic.
It comes completely out of fucking nowhere. You're just like,
makes
all of a
sense
sudden
in
he's
the
talking.
comic,
All of a sudden he's talking to a to this Indian
and it's supposed to
Vishnu
be
god.
like
Like what is happening?
a big deal in the comic, because it's like, again, you have to remember that this came out over the course of years. So like, he dies early on, and then I think it's like year 2 or year 3 or something like that, where you see him come as Dead Man. So it's like, it's been a while, like outside of the comics as well.
Within
it's like
the context of it just being a movie, it's just that makes no sense. You're like, it comes completely out of nowhere. Like I don't. My thing is, I don't care about the comics. I'm not reading this because I'm not familiar with it. I don't know it. I know it loosely from a few references. So like, I'm watching this just as a movie and just as an adaptation of
I know, but I'm explaining the context to you and why it's bad in that regard.
So I'm just like, this is not a good adaptation of that game. Like, just do an adaptation, and just as a movie, it needs to be an hour, like 30 minutes longer, 20 minutes longer.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways they could have fixed it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's bad.
And what it is trash.
It also came out too late. Like, it was like the second game had been out for a couple years, and like this wasn't really that popular anymore, and like
I don't know, if it had been more accurate to the comics, it would have appealed to the people that were big fans of it. Like, it would have done better had it been more accurate.
Not as a straight to DVD, not a straight to DVD slop. It wouldn't have.
But again, if it had been more accurate and they had put trailers and feelers out, it might not have gone straight to DVD. Is what I'm saying.
No, that's what I'm saying. If this had come out right after the first game came out, and this maybe went to theaters, it maybe would have done better.
It couldn't have come out right. It would have had to wait until The thing about Injustice is it wasn't the game that made it popular. The game put it out into the world, and the idea of it became interesting enough that they made the comics. It's the comic run that made it popular. It would have had to come out when it was like right, kind of in the smack middle of that.
I mean, I don't know. I've never seen those comics as being as popular as you do. I don't know.
I mean, it is. That there's a reason why there's 5 years worth of them.
Yeah, but was it a 5-year run, or did it just like?
I'm saying 5 years in universe. I don't know what the time frame on the run is.
How long did those comics run for? Because if it only ran for a year, then it's not really that popular.
Let's find out.
Because I don't know. I've never been interested in those comics. I don't know why. That universe doesn't interest me.
I mean, that's because you don't like fun.
I don't know. If I don't find characters you like being out of character all that interesting for very long, it just doesn't do anything for me. As far as I'm concerned, that was just a vehicle to have the characters fight each other in a video game. I'm not really interested in Superman as a dictator.
Injustice: Gods Among Us publication date was from January 2013 to September 2016. So 3 years.
It ran for 3 years. Oh, right, okay. Fair enough then. That's a respectable run.
153 digital, 60 print.
Yeah, this would have been better as a show.
Yes, it would.
It would have been much more interesting.
Absolutely, it would.
But anyway, that's Injustice. That's the Injustice movie. It's not very good. It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's just
it's
a bad because a lot of these my thing with a lot of this stuff is it's like to be like, oh, it's not like the comics. That's such a hollow criticism for me. Like,
no, but it's not when they're trying to adapt the comics.
Right, hold on.
I'll let you finish in a second. But the thing is that I don't need it to be 1-to-1. But it would be nice. It would be nice if it was even remotely accurate.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
guess
not.
My thing is it's not like the comic at a certain threshold isn't an interesting criticism because obviously none of these things are like the comics. So
that's not true. There are ones that are like it, and one of the ones that I'm going to talk about later is like the thing that it's based on. It is a good adaptation. That's the thing. It is. Yeah. This is a bad adaptation.
Yeah, but it's also just
full point blank.
It's just also just a bad thing in and of itself, and I don't.
Sure. But if it was a better adaptation, then it would probably have been a better thing in and of itself.
My point is though, like I want the thing. My criticism with these, and I'm gonna contradict myself because I'm gonna compare it to some comics later. But in this thing, my thing was I'm not interested in comparing it to the comics because I want to talk about how it's bad in and of itself because I was getting frustrated as someone who is not familiar with the comics. I was just getting all of the stuff I was sending to you were narrative complaints, where I was like, this thing sucks narratively.
But that has everything to do with the fact that they have botched the adaptation. Because if they followed the story as it's supposed to go, let me finish. If they follow the story, the reason why those things don't make sense is because they are not doing the story correctly.
Right, but my point...
And yes, they can fix those things, but that's where it is required for it to be a good adaptation. In order for these things to make sense, you have to follow certain story threads for them to make sense. Otherwise, you're right, it is just random isolated events that don't connect.
My point is,
it has everything to do with it being a bad adaptation.
My point is, though, it can be maybe not necessarily a good adaptation, but still be a good movie. Like, right? Like, they could have made a decent movie.
Can't.
But that's my point.
Not if it's trying to follow the story that already exists, that you're just taking random elements from. You're right.
A different adaptation of it.
If you could, but at that point, it's not the thing you're adapting.
Yeah, you could.
Is my thing. If you change it so that it makes sense, so that it's not, then it's not injustice anymore.
Yeah, again, the framework of again, you can make an adaptation that's different, that takes creative liberties, that does things that are different with this version of these characters, and keeps the rough framework of it the same, but it's still hold on, let me finish. That it's still coherent and makes sense, that still follows the logic that its own movie has set up. Like I say, if you're unfamiliar,
right?
Hold on,
but then it's not injustice.
You could still, this movie would be 90%. A big part of what ruined this movie for me, where I was like, you know what, it's all right until the ending, but the ending, it only exists to be a reference to the original game. So that's what I'm saying. If you try to make it less of an adaptation, then maybe it might be a better movie. It could be a better movie, but my point is whether or not. Again, yes, you've made your case repeatedly that it is a bad adaptation, but I said beyond that, it is a bad movie. It
is. You're right. But that has everything to do with the fact that it's a bad adaptation.
But that wasn't my. That's what I'm saying is my part of this conversation has nothing to do with the adaptation. That was my point.
There's no part of this which does. It's an injustice movie. You can't have a conversation about how it's a bad movie without comparing it to the original. You just can't.
I can, because I didn't read the original. So that was my point.
That's great, but my thing is that the things that you're complaining about are bad because they tried to take it from the source material and did a piss poor job of it.
But what I'm saying is,
yes, if they did not want to adapt those and wanted to just take the character and do a completely different thing, sure, it might be a better movie, but it's not a good injustice movie.
That's fair. My thing is, for me though, the source material isn't the comics. That's my point. For me, going into this, that was my point. Is you kept finding like, oh, it's not like the comic. I don't care if it's not like the comics, because to me, the source material is the game. So I'm upset.
Right.
It's not more like the game.
I understand that, but the thing that you have to understand is what they're adapting is not the game. But they are adapting. I don't care what your opinion is. Right. I don't care what you prefer. But I'm saying that's what makes this bad. Is you're right. If they had just done the game, it probably would have been stronger, because that is an hour and a half narrative. Like, that game is an hour and a half narrative. You absolutely could very easily just take that and make it into a movie, and they should have. If that's what they wanted, was just a one singular hour and a half movie, it would be very easy for them to have done that. But that's not what their goal was.
It's a much better movie.
Their goal was to adapt the comic book, but they couldn't do that because it's a 3-year thing that they tried to squeeze into like an hour 20.
But that's another point I would make is, but it isn't. Like, I remember when this came out, I remember all of the marketing that went into this. No, I remember all the interviews, everyone talking about it. No one ever said it was an adaptation of the comic. No one ever pitched it.
Right, but it's showing how he how he kills the Joker, and how he becomes. So at that point, it is.
No. What I'm saying though is they didn't see it as an adaptation of the comic, which I guess makes it bad. They clearly just wanted to pull story elements from it to expand upon the story of the game, but they don't do either well. So it's sad. It ended up satisfying no one. But like my point is,
ultimately we can agree though. Ultimately, it's trash.
It's terrible. But my point is like I don't care about the context from the comics. That's the point I wanted to make before we move on. Is I don't care about the context from the comics because because I didn't read the comics, right? So I don't care as an audience.
Yeah, I know. I get that. You've kind of made that point crystal clear, and I'm just saying.
Let me finish the thought. So the point is that within the context of the movie, that scene sucks. Because, like, maybe if you read the comics, you're like, oh, yeah, that's a fun reference to the comics. But for me, I'm like, I keep using the Dick Grayson becoming dead man thing because it was the most incoherent moment in this movie. Because I'm like, what the fuck? There's no version of Dick Grayson that I am familiar with that has ever been dead man. This is a wild character origin that, oh, no, we're not gonna delve into this? Like, as a movie, it makes the movie, or like if I wasn't familiar with the games, I'd be like, wait, they could just travel to other dimensions? Why didn't they do this sooner? Like, that makes this, removed from its source material, just a bad movie. You know what? I think this is gonna be I think this is gonna be a YouTube video. It's just called Injustice. It's just a bad movie.
I want you to read the source material just so you can understand just how bad it is.
To be fair, I've never had an interest in reading this. Well, a nominal interest. Maybe if I got like a good trade paperback of it, I would. But I can't read comics on my phone. It hurts my eyes too much.
I mean, tablet is easy.
It also hurts my eyes too much. For me, it's a baby princess thing. My comics have to be tactile, physical. Like if you had a big collection of them, I might. But I'm just never really had an interest in exploring that. I like the games just fine, but I've never really had an interest in exploring that universe.
So you like the games, but you never were like what led to Superman being like this? Yeah, you're lame. You're lame.
Not exceptionally, no. I don't like evil Superman. Generally, I don't like evil Superman. So no, I'm never interested in more evil Superman.
I don't like evil Superman just for the sake of being evil Superman, but I like what makes that run interesting. What makes that run interesting is the comics because it's the lead up and the run of the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
No, don't have one iota of an interest.
Do you like Red Sun?
Yeah, kind of.
Because he's the same character.
Sort of. That one was different.
What do you mean sort of? Yes or no? Do you?
It's a complicated question because yes, at the time I liked it, but at the time it was novel. Does that make sense? It was still new, so the concept of it was still new. So I hadn't seen it 100 times. By the time I played Injustice, I had seen it a bunch of times. It just wasn't interesting to me anymore. Different point in my life, I guess is how I would put it. Also, the thing I like the most about Red Sun is Funny Hat Batman, who they fuck in that movie. He doesn't get any of the interesting shit.
We'll get there.
He gets fucked. They turn him into a bad guy and they remove all the nuance from that character.
We'll get there.
I'm not wrong.
We're not there. We're not there yet. Do you have anything else to say about Injustice?
It's just a bad movie. Well, okay.
Oh, it is.
Just to wrap up, because I feel bad saying that. Every time I say I don't like saying these animated movies are bad because it feels like I'm grading them on a curb because I feel like I'm being like, well, they're not real movies. Where I'm like, they're straight to.
No, you can't do that. That's not fair.
Well, it's just like, well, you get what I mean, though, where it's like, it's a straight-to-DVD. They don't have the resources that a full theatrical movie, they don't have the budget. So, like, anytime I find myself, Injustice is ugly as shit. It's
because it's trying to look like the games.
It looks horrible. I mean, sure, but okay. Then my if it's trying to match the art style of the comic or the games, the art style is ugly as fuck. All the characters look rounded and bulky. Like Superman looks like his face is swollen. Like all of the animation looks cheap and slow.
From what I recall,
art style looks bad. It just looks like bad.
From what I recall of that movie, no, the art style it doesn't look like the comics. Not to my opinion, anyway.
It looks bad. It looks like so like. When the like the Man of Tomorrow, the animation looked pretty, or Apocalypse, the animation looks pretty. Like I feel like when I'm like it's a bad movie, it feels like I'm picking on a slow kid.
I mean, in this instance, you're not.
But you get what I mean, right? So it's like when it'd be like, oh no, this like it's oh, I guess a better comparison would be like when we were talking about the Disney Channel original movies, and I'm like, oh, these are bad movies, but like, yeah, they're all not great movies because they don't have the resources a full theatrical movie does, so they're always going to be slightly worse by that nature.
So I mean,
am I wrong?
Let me finish. Here's maybe an unpopular opinion. I think any of the including in not Injustice, most of the animated movies I think are better than any of the live action ones. That's going to be my hot take for the day.
I'd say
because Superman is Superman.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to disagree with. I mean, this is well, at least Superman's in it. I mean, that's. Yeah, we're gonna talk about some of these Superman. So, to be fair, these Superman movies.
Do you have any final thoughts for Injustice?
Yeah. So when some of these, when I'm like, oh yeah, they're good. It feels like I'm like, but they're good for what they are. Like this is bad for what it is, but no, this is legit a bad movie. Hey there, everybody. It's NCard Justin here. Let me know down in the comments. Do you agree? Is Injustice a bad movie? Is it a bad adaptation? Just let me know what you think about this down in the comments down below. But in the meantime, if you would like to see the full podcast that this video is from, our Superman special, we're talking about all sorts of things Superman, you click the box on the left, or if you just want to see a random video that you think you're going to enjoy, you click the box on the right. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. We put new videos out 7 days a week, or you can just leave us a like. That helps us out too. But we will see you all in the next video. Have a good day, everybody.